form inside of the molecules that make up the human being. He created us in his specific image. He could have created, in his divineness, he could have created something just as great, and it still would have been very, very great. I think an angel is a great being, but he did not create the angel in the image of God. And so we have bought into this philosophy, this theology, or this imagery that the angels are actually more magnificent than we are. And so we are looking outside of ourselves for some supernatural occurrence to happen, and everything that God wants for you to happen is inside of you. And it's when people come together and connect with like spirits and like minds that it manifests itself. So my objective is to challenge you to tap into that entrepreneurial spirit, that innovative spirit, that creative spirit in here. Because when you tap into that, now that we understand that the kingdom is not about money, when we talk about generating money, there's no issues around it. Amen. We've already gotten over all of the materialism and the bling and all the stuff that sucks money away from us. And we understand that when we create it, not that we're just looking for it to come to us, but I'm going to create the atmosphere for it to flow through me and flow through us. And I'm going to start participating in some of this commerce rather than just spending. When you start doing that, the money will come. And when it comes, you won't lose it because you'll know what to do with it and you'll know what the purpose of it is for. We're created in the image and the likeness of God. We have God-like characteristics. Image is also an external reflection of an internal reality. You can pretty much measure someone's connection to God based upon how they manifest to other people. Meaning, you may have the perception of spirituality, but you're cursing all the time. And you're cursing people out. And you're negative and you're mean. Now, God is saying, wait a minute, I'm in you. Why are you operating this way? How do you manifest me this way? Now, you look the part. You have, the skirt is down here, no makeup. You look holy. You look it. You know how to lean on the pulpit the right way. You can swing it, and you know how to tune up. All that stuff is great in its place, but that does not automatically mean that you are closer to Christ than I am. Maybe I have not adapted your traditions yet. And traditions are good. Traditions have a place. But you can't build a movement, an ever-exchanging movement on a tradition. It's like having a business. Businesses have to evolve. They have to expand. If you just get stuck and you can't continuously reinvent yourself to be relevant in today's world, then you're just a relic. People don't buy relics unless they're collectors. People want the authentic. People want, what are you doing for me right now? How can you help me? How can you change my life right now? That's why the whole world, the body of Christ, as people from the marketplace come here, you're going to have to redefine who you are. And more of what we do will be outside. So what happens when we have a conversation like this and we start talking about the image of God, it's like, wow, okay. The fundamental basic understanding of even a new Christian, a new convert. Someone says, I want to be a Christian. The definition of being a Christian is to be Christ-like. That's what it is. What's interesting to know in biblical histories, the first followers of Christ did not refer to themselves as Christians. Here's another one. Christ did not call himself a Christian. He was God of the universe. He was, God, I am the Son of Man. Who do you say I am? He didn't say, I'm a Christian. The followers of Christ were called Christians by other people. And then by the 3rd century, when Constantinople and the Roman church, or Rome became the Roman church, they called everybody, we're all going to be Christians now. And they took a movement and put it in an institution. And they institutionalized it. Before the 3rd century, 300 years for the students, 300 years, centuries, 100 years, 300 years after the death of Christ, 300 AD, Ad Denomini, what have you. That's when the Roman emperors stepped in and said, look, they like baby's kids. They don't die, they multiply. They would put them in the Colosseum. They would put us in the Colosseums. They would put us to the lions. And whenever they had a martyr, whenever an apostle was a martyr, it's like it was just spread. And the message was just spreading. And so you know what they said? They did, if we can't beat them, we're going to join them. And so think about it. Most of our experiences of Christian understanding are under 100 years old. But you can't get a full scope unless you look at what happened 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago. And then when the Reformation, this is a little side note, but it's relevant, and I'm being led this way. When the Reformation happened in Europe, so we fast forward after the formation of the Catholic Church in Rome, all the way to the Reformation, and when Martin Luther and his colleagues were forming the Lutheran Church and the Protestant Church, their objective was not to be in those cathedrals and those temples. And if you look at it, if you study biblical history, and you look at, I believe it was St. Augustine, Bishop of Hippo. North Africa was where he was. He was an African. And he was an archbishop. He was a bishop who eventually became a saint. He taught a theology called church invisible, the invisible church, meaning transform the world, past, present, and future. Because remember, one of the characteristics of the Creator is his omnipresence, which suggests that he operates in all times at the same time. Now, that's different from listening to what we normally hear and say, God is everywhere. Yes, God is everywhere. But God is everywhere in all times at the same time. Just like when God created the earth, he was on day 1. He created heaven and earth, and then day 2, and day 3, day 4, day 5, and then was it day 6 he created man. God couldn't leave day 1 to come to day 2 because then day 1 wouldn't exist. Because without God, nothing exists. Everything is created in his image and is connected to who he is. So God has to be in day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. He cannot just be in day 4. He can't say, well, day 3 is over, and he steps into day 4. Day 3, day 2, day 1 would fail to exist. He couldn't just be in the 19th century, and then he's not in the 20th century, and then he's not in the 21st century. Think about if God was just in this century, all of the experiences of humankind would not exist. That's why he has to exist in all times at the same time. Now, why is that important, you say? Well, for instance, let's say you have a debilitating illness right now. Diabetes, cancer. We can speak against every one of those right now, whatever it is. HIV, AIDS, you name it. Lupus, leukemia, hypoglycemia. I just go on and on. Hypocholesterolemia, all of these different medical conditions. Well, think about it. Why is it so important to understand that God exists in all times at the same time? Well, most diseases are connected to genetic ailments, changes in your DNA away from your Creator. So the same God that exists here also exists in your past. He also exists in your bloodline. And he exists in your parents' bloodline. So imagine, if you will, you have diabetes as a genetic disposition of your parents. But the same God that you're praying to now not only can meet your need now, but he can go back in time because he moves through all times. He can go back in time and curse and cure the gene of diabetes in your grandfather or your great-grandfather. And guess what? Not only will you not have it, but your children's children would not have it. So the same God that is a creator in the past and an innovator and an entrepreneur and a healer and a way maker, whatever he is to you, he's not just that in the past, he's in the present and he's in the future. So God, in all of his omniscience, his all-knowing and all-power, also understands what the future holds for you. So he's able to look back from here and say, you're there, and if I'm going to get you to your divine purpose, there's some things that you have to go through, that you have to learn, or you'll never get there. And that's when we say our steps are ordered, is because God has created a universal system that navigates on our behalf. Whatever it is. If poverty was in your bloodline, when you cease to have a poverty mindset, he can go back and curse the poverty mindset in your bloodline. The generational curses don't just stop with you. They will continue to go forward if you continue to allow it to go forward. Now, the part of your process. You step into the process by taking your future, just like God has already ordained your future. When you decide that I'm going to take my future into my own hands, you have the ability yourself to discontinue some of the bloodline issues that you have. You can stop some of your own generational curses. Changing your diet, changing your eating, changing your thinking. And so many times when the word of the Lord, when the prophetic word comes, the prophetic word is just not a futuristic word. The prophetic word of the Lord covers all times. Because when God speaks, he's not speaking just for a moment in time. He's speaking at every moment in time, past, present, and future. Now manifest that as a human being. When God gives you an idea and you turn that idea, let's say your name happens to be Bill Gates, and you create Microsoft. The Microsoft idea impacted and changed forever. The past, it eliminated some technology. The present, everything today is built on a .NET Microsoft system for the most part. And future technology is being developed to make sure that it is compliant with Microsoft. So if your idea is not big enough to transform the past, the present, and the future, I argue that it's not a God idea. It may be your idea. It may be an idea that makes money, but it is your purpose. When God creates something, it impacts all times at the same time. It influences all information, and that's the thing about information. Information is fluid. And prophetic information changes. It's almost like you're dealing with a situation and the prophetic word comes to your life and it shifts. It's changing history. History is being changed and you don't even know it. Your past has already been changed. It's been recorded in the chronicles of time. You don't believe it. You don't believe it when I say you are a millionaire in the making. You think it's just a fad and a facade. But if you really tapped into that consciousness and understood that you are a millionaire in the making, not just because I'm telling you, because I have prophetically spoken something on you, and even though your parents and your grandparents and your great-grandparents are in their grave, they left an inheritance to you that they didn't realize, but when I speak to you, they had it. They may not realize it because they're in the grave, but I have now spoken something to existence. And the question is now, you're not a millionaire in the making, you're a millionaire. You know why? Because your deceased parents and your deceased grandparents, your entire bloodline was a millionaire. Starting with you, because I've just changed. I have spoken a prophetic word that has changed the future course of your destiny. Omnipresence, omnipotence. What's the other one? Omnipotence, omnipresence. My mind is moving, so give me the other one. What is it? Omniscience. A king, a kingdom, a land. I ask every church, where's your land? Where's the land that you own free and clear? I ask every person in here, where's your land that you own free and clear? Even if it's a little plot somewhere that you can say, this is my land. Because the way the world is moving for people who are owners and not just consumers. The haves and the have-nots, not the look like they haves. You see, not just the, and I make good eye contact with people, so just because I'm looking at you, I'm not talking to you. I might be looking through you, but you just look straight ahead and smile, and you'll be all right. Think about it, the haves and have-nots. Now, if you just want to look like everybody else, you don't have to be creative. You don't have to be innovative. If you just want to have church rather than be the church, then just do what everybody else is doing. And that might get you to a certain point. I envision a day that we'll go into a city and the church will manifest out of the spontaneity and creativity of what God is doing. And he will draw people to it based upon their lives being changed rather than my marketing strategy. Because if you can transform a person's life, they'll always be connected to you. They'll always be connected to you. They may not show up every week, but their time, their talent, and their treasure will be there. They'll always be connected to you, even if they're connected to you in spirit or connected to you via the U.S. mail.